The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Morning, everybody. That's right. It is Monday, August 4th. And today, you guys, is National Coast Guard Day.
Awesome.
Nothing to say about the Coast Guard, huh? Okay.
I do. I
Go for it, Michael.
interesting Coast Guard client kind of.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they had a plot to run up on Shaq's house. I guess over in Miami. Coast
Yeah.
Guard's the only one who can kind of get onto those Starlit Island or something it is.
Yep.
And like has rights or ability to go onto their property and things. And so I had a client that was working with seemingly someone from the Coast Guard.
Interesting. Interesting.
Otherwise, thank you for their service, you know.
Exactly.
Didn't have to turn over all the bales that
Oh, man. It's also, Jenny Beth, you're going to like this. It's National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big chocolate girl, but chocolate cookies are good.
Okay. All right. You're cutting out. You got something going on with your sound, girl. Anyways, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet, and we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms, you guys. And kicking it off first, we have Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their lives back on track after they've been victims of the track. That's right, it is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Can you hear me now, Jason?
Yeah, much better now.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure. Good to know. Good to know.
Elias, Rumble hasn't started, just so you know, for some reason. Not sure why. But go ahead, Jenny.
Okay, well, I'm going to start.
Yep.
Nebraska's fight against Delta 8 and other THC products is now crossing state lines. Attorney General Mike Kilgers has filed a lawsuit in Lancaster County District Court against Savage Enterprises, a Wyoming corporation based in California, accusing the nationwide manufacturer and distributor of violating Nebraska's labeling and safety laws and targeting kids with its marketing. Think of the children. The lawsuit says Savage woefully failed to meet state requirements, sold products with inaccurate THC levels, ignored health warnings, and failed to properly caution consumers about potential risks. Testing found discrepancies in at least 7 vape, gummy, and edible products. Kilger's office also alleges the company markets to minors, citing fruity flavors, cartoon packaging, bright colors, sexually suggestive social media posts, and even Black Friday promotions offering free Nintendo Switches and PlayStation 5s. Damn. The AG says the company also sells online without age verification. Since taking office in 2023, Hilgers has filed 16 similar lawsuits and issued over 225 cease and desist letters in Nebraska smoke and vape shops. Hilgers is not fucking around with y'all. He's also working with lawmakers to restrict or ban most hemp THC products. Efforts that could resurface in 2026 after previous bills stalled. The state is asking the court to block Savage Enterprises from continuing these practices and seeking $2,000 for each violation of Nebraska law. In a statement, Hilger said the Attorney General will not sit idly by while Savage Enterprises enriches itself and its owners by endangering the health and well-being of Nebraska's most valuable asset, its children and teenagers. So, Hilgers is not fucking around with you guys, it sounds like. It sounds like this company is obviously selling a lot if they're able to give out Nintendo Switches and PlayStation 5s. And, you know, cartoon packaging, like, we already know better than that. So, I think this is interesting to see Hilgers actually pressing a suit against somebody who is not inside the state of Nebraska. But I kind of want to see what Mike Minardi thinks about this.
Yeah, you know, I love this because it really brings up the big monkey in the room that all these states have kind of been avoiding when they're creating these laws, and that's the interstate commerce aspect of the federal farm bill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it clearly states that they're not allowed to interfere with interstate commerce. And, you know, interstate commerce, when you look up it and you look up marketing and you go down to the roots of what that means, and you look at the intent of the farm bill, it was the intent to determine whether or not there was an economic viability in an agricultural crop for hemp.
Mm-hmm.
And by them limiting the sales of these products in state after state, I think it should be considered a clear conflict with the federal farm bill. And it's up to the feds to be able to start regulating these products. Otherwise, they're just thwarting the whole purpose and intent of the farm bill, which I think is very clear on the fact that states are not allowed to interfere with the interstate commerce of it. That's why I think all these places, whether or not it be THCA banned in the state, Delta 8 banned in the state, still should be able to ship in from third parties.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you, Michael, but, you know, I guess so what you're saying is that even though if a state bans these type of products from being sold on state shelves, they can't ban the internet commerce of the direct to consumer model, is what you're saying.
Right, and should not be able to at all ban the possession of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it still should be considered a legal product, even if it's not a non-compliant product. The way that I think it should be looked at is like a dry county. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You may not be able to go buy alcohol in that county, but damn straight you can go buy alcohol in the county next door and bring it back to your house and drink all you want.
Yeah. Yep. I feel you on that. This will be definitely a super interesting case to follow along as this proceeds, because I think this is the first time we've seen someone go after an out of state manufacturer in this type of capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting part for me, and I think the part where he may have a gotcha moment, is if they're selling these products without an age gate. That's a pretty easy gotcha.
You're saying that the reason that he's able to go after them is because they're selling the product without an age gate? You're cutting out a lot, Jenny.
I think that's a pretty easy point to make. Oh, well, I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Okay.
I don't know of any requirement federally of any sort of age requirement.
Well, I thought on the internet, like if you're selling adulterated products, you are required on the internet to have an age gate. I thought that was kind of like standard procedure to have on your website as far as compliance, website compliance, just in the digital world.
I would say for 18 plus in general, they shouldn't be buying stuff online because of the fact that they're under 18, so they really shouldn't be engaged in type of issue. But I mean, with the proliferation of Amazon and all these different companies throughout the country, with the products they're selling, you know, I understand the age aspect of it, especially for psychoactive properties. But again, I don't necessarily think that that's a federal thing. So that's a state thing. And whether or not, again, that's interference with interstate commerce, that a blunder on the feds, or I should say FDA, because really they're the ones, I think, under the Farm Bill that are commissioned with writing these rules and regulations. You know, I may be wrong, but criminal? Is it illegal? I don't think it should be. Interesting.
Very, very, very interesting. Well,
I'd love to disagree. I think it should be criminal and illegal.
Here we go.
I think that if the cannabis and hemp industries can't get united on that, we will not have the moral high ground, not have the wind at our back, and frankly, not be able to co-opt people from outside the industry to see the opportunities the industry can create. And so I think, to me, that's the low-hanging fruit where theoretically everybody could agree. It aligns with other intoxicating industries. And if we can't coalesce around that, I think we face worser. And it's just going to take a couple horrific incidences to make the headlines before we could see a Prohibition 4.0 and a pushback against some of the progress that has been created as a result of not being able to sort of self-regulate. And, I think it eliminates, really, undermines the argument that we're being overregulated if the industry can't come up with some prudent guardrails that don't need to be codified in law. Like, can we not maybe try to think that common sense is more common and that we share some values around who is allowed to access intoxicating cannabinoids and how?
Did you just say common sense is common? Because I totally don't agree with that at all.
No, I said, never mind. You can play it back. That's not what I said.
No, okay.
Those are two distinct questions, right? Whether or not it is currently illegal and whether or not it should or shouldn't. Those are two definitely different questions, I think. But you're right. I think should these companies be regulated or at least, have safeguards for who they're selling it to? Absolutely. But whether or not there's currently that in the law federally, I don't think so. Those are two different things there.
We saw what happened to the C-suite of a healthcare company when a disgruntled adult male felt that they were the reason why his family member wasn't able to continue to navigate through the treatment modalities that he felt I think his mom was entitled to. I see a day in the near future
action.
where what's that?
But that was an illegal action. That was someone like committing a homicide, bro. Like that's
right,
a crazy.
I would also offer the C-suite of high potency psychoactive hemp derived cannabinoid manufacturing companies and brands should think very, very, very carefully about whether they're going to put profit over safety, because they're going to find a day where some aggrieved parent is coloring well outside the lines and they'll be the target.
Yeah, and you know what? You can look in that in any business, and they all do a cost benefit analysis. Firestone tires, any product that is manufactured, as soon as it comes out, as soon as they know about harms, they look at it and be like, okay, is it worth fixing it? Or is it worth paying the lawsuits that we're going to get as a result that this harm causes? So that's with every product that's been in existence forever.
I think that's a fair point, Michael. That's a fair point. Interesting.
I don't know. It always takes me back to my light bulbs that I couldn't get in California on Amazon because they're illegal in California. If you're going to operate within a state, you need to operate by its regulations as well if you decide to do commerce in it.
Well, I think you should just order from Alibaba and went around Amazon.
Yeah, okay.
Just saying.
You could still go buy.
Why don't I just get it on the Silk Road while I'm at it, Jason?
Maybe
you can go and drive to Arizona or wherever else and buy them and bring them home.
Yep.
That's not going to be a problem or issue. And we said again, and that's the shipping of the company. I'm surprised you can't find any company.
Yeah, I wonder if you would have gone directly to the actual manufacturer. I bet you they would have probably shipped to you instead of dealing with Amazon, because Amazon is subsidized by the federal government. So as far as for all their shipping,
I tried online multiple places to find those light bulbs.
Interesting.
Shout out to California.
Yeah, interesting. Delta 9, I guess, is easier to buy than light bulbs, apparently, in California, Jenny Beth.
Seems like it.
Well, on that, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
There we go. And we are back, you guys. Yeah, are you going to be coming on screen today, or are you just in the virtual world, just on the vocal? Is he not there? Okay. Comes in and out.
Oh, coming up next.
What's that, Yarrow?
My desktop is locked out. I changed the Apple password and then entered the wrong one like 4 times, and it locked me out for like 45 minutes. So depending upon how much overtime we have today, you'll get to see my purty face.
All right. Well, hopefully you can get back into your computer before your story read. But okay, all right, fair enough. And I do have a update for you guys on the whole Glass House debacle later on in the show. But go ahead, Jenny.
Well, coming up next, the High at 9 head honcho, Jason Beck.
Oh, look at that. Short and sweet.
You did a lot of extra talking. You're
short and sweet. Fair enough, Jenny. Well, the DEA releases new data on marijuana enforcement, tracking Chinese grows for the first time, you guys. That's right. Enforcement against illicit cannabis operations by the United States Enforcement Administration, better known as the DEA, held mostly steady in 2024 compared to previous years, according to the newly released agency data that for the first time also tallies actions against what DEA calls, in quotes, you guys, Chinese grows. The new report from the DEA Domestic Cannabis Eradication Suppression Program includes numbers for eradicated grow sites, arrests, and weapons seized in association with marijuana-related enforcement actions, as well as the DEA estimated market value of seized cannabis products. Through data from some states is not included in the latest report, the DEA program nationwide counted 16,330 cultivation sites eradicated in 2024, including 14,904 outdoor sites and 1,426 indoor sites. A reported 5.3 million plants were seized as a result of the actions. 5,764 arrests were made and 3,125 weapons were seized, the report says. In general, the 2024 numbers are considerably lower than a decade ago, before many states had legalized and regulated marijuana for adults or medical patients, providing consumers with legal and regulated means to access cannabis and reducing illicit market demand. But they're otherwise largely in keeping with actions from recent years. On that note, however, the DEA has come under fire in the past for its failure to promptly or completely release data from its eradication program. Last December, critics pointed out that the agency hadn't released new data in more than a year and a half since May of 2023. Although DEA recently posted the new 2024 data, it also appears to have removed a statistical report from 2022 that had already been published, and a 2023 report includes entries of 0 for enforcement in a number of states, indicating either missing data or a lack of enforcement actions whatsoever. DEA didn't immediately respond to Marijuana Moment's request for a comment, and Paul Armentado, the deputy director of the advocacy group NORML, called it troubling that the agency hasn't provided more robust data. In a quote, he says, "The DEA's failure to release this data in a timely manner, coupled with its failure to release complete data for the years 2022 and 2023, once again highlights the federal government's lack of transparency when it comes to providing accurate statistics on the estimated costs and scope of federal marijuana prohibition in America," he said. At a time when voters and their elected officials nationwide are reevaluating state and federal marijuana policies, it is troubling that these agencies are providing far less than a complete picture regarding the true costs and impact of maintaining cannabis criminalization in America, he says. The recently released report about enforcement actions from last year for the first time includes a separate column labeled, in quotes, Chinese grows. Illegal cannabis operations that officials and media reports say have become increasingly common in the United States in recent years. And in all of 2024, 15 Chinese cultivation operations were the targets of enforcement actions, and the DEA data show most of them in Washington state. So there was 5 there, and in Oregon there were 4. That is just a sliver of the overall illicit cannabis actions nationwide, Armentano at NORML pointed out.
And then a quote says, out of the tens of thousands of grow operations seized in 2024, federal agencies only identified Chinese involvement in 15 of them, he said in an email to Marijuana Moment. This total would appear to undermine claims that Chinese drug traffickers are rampantly involved in these domestic operations, he says. Armentardo added that in an additional quote, it also begs the question why Chinese operators are being singled out as opposed to the involvement of other international drug trafficking organizations. For decades, for example, Mexican cartels were involved in illegal cannabis cultivation in parts of California, but DEA didn't separate out those groups in past reports. And notably, the most recent DEA statistical report does not include any information whatsoever over some states such as Maine, which news reports last year described as the newest frontier for the illicit marijuana trade. Especially for Chinese-involved operations, it's possible the missing data would show significantly more enforcement actions nationally, and the Department of Justice, the DOJ, in past weeks charged 7 Chinese nationals with illegal marijuana activity in Maine and Massachusetts, and for instance, through those actions are too recent to be reflected in the new DEA report, they say. Separate data from last May released by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol indicated that seizures of cannabis at southern border declined again in 2023, and those figures showed that federal agents intercepted roughly 61,000 pounds of cannabis in the region, and a 29% drop from the year before. Those findings track with other indications of decline in illegal marijuana trafficking, as a growing number of state laws give American consumers legal places to buy cannabis, including a report from the U.S. Sentencing Commission in March of last year showing federal cases continuing to fall. And while that report didn't cite the specific number of marijuana trafficking cases in 2023, it dipped again compared to the previously 2022 low of 806, and by comparison, there were roughly 5,000 cannabis cases in 2013. A 2022 report from the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, shed light on who's getting caught up in enforcement activities, and at checkpoints across the country, agents are mostly tackling small amounts of marijuana from American citizens rather than making large busts of international cartels, as some might assume. And also consistent with other studies and federal reports, the GAO analysis showed a significant decline in cannabis seizures at checkpoints overall in 2016. And while DEA hasn't updated its DCE/SP data, the agency has been involved in another area of marijuana policy. It's actively participating in an administrative hearing on the Biden administration's proposal to reschedule cannabis. However, the DEA judge assigned to that case has been critical of the agency throughout the process due to largely procedural missteps. And separately, just days after Senate confirmed a new DEA administrator appointed by President Trump, the agency prompted yet another message warning against marijuana use, linking it to depression and suicidal thinking. And while DEA has been promoting a variety of anti-cannabis campaigns and editorials, this latest feature comes as a notable time following the Senate confirmation of swearing in of Terrence Cole to serve as the agency's administrator, and advocates and stakeholders are monitoring closely to see how DEA navigates both the policy and messaging around cannabis with Cole's confirmation. Cole indicated during his confirmation process that he planned to prioritize marijuana rescheduling without giving his specific opinion about the reform, but that was not reflected in a statement issued following his taking office, with cannabis policy going unmentioned as part of a list of immediate policy priorities. And so far during the Trump administration, it seems the agency isn't giving up on its ancillary anti-marijuana promotions. For example, the last week, DEA marked World Emoji Day by again promoting its guide to decode symbols that it claims are associated with illegal drug use and sales. Also, during National Prevention Week in May, DEA highlighted a campaign that encourages people to share memes with dubious claims about the effects of cannabis, including a theory that is a gateway drug to using other substances. The Just Say No campaign wasn't directly organized by DEA. Rather, it was coordinated by the organization Johnny's Ambassadors, which was founded by parents who say their child died by suicide after consuming high-potency marijuana concentrates. But the federal agency hosted the memes on 2 of its taxpayer-funded websites and sent email blasts to promote them. And in 2023, the DEA also advised young people that rather than doing drugs, they should focus on becoming Instagram influencers. The agency promoted tips on how to get a natural high as an alternative to drugs, sharing what it said were 7 better highs, such as becoming famous on Instagram, playing video games, and going to a pet store to look at animals. You guys, wow. You gotta love it, man. You gotta love that the DEA is promoting these endorphin hits from social media and this like column and whatnot. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Nothing more natural of a high than cannabis.
Right? That's what I would have thought too. I'm with you on that, Mike. You know, yeah, exactly. It's natural. It's organic.
And naturally, they've always been anti-cannabis, and they've made a tremendous amount of money through the enforcement against cannabis. So naturally, they're not going to do anything to help.
So what I would really like to see is the opposite, right? And this started right 420. They had this proposition campaign for everyone to kind of push back, and I had trying to get a logo created and stuff. We got to have people who've been helped from cannabis, everyone to come out. Everyone who has seen or someone who's been harmed by alcohol, tobacco, or sugar, come out and talk about those things. Because the reality is that those things are much more of a harm than cannabis ever was. The issues with the psychological aspect of cannabis is that, number one, it's proven. If you look at the studies, I presented this stuff to our legislature a couple of years ago, when there's all this, cannabis causes psychosis, causes schizophrenia, etc. The science doesn't prove that. Science contradicts that. It's got to stop. It's just ridiculous. All that these things that there are people saying. The idea. I had one of the events that I did. The Drug-Free America woman was there, and she said, "I know veterans, and he used cannabis, and he killed himself." And then she mentioned he was also drinking after. We have a great amount of veterans, and I'm sure all of us do here, that have been healed and helped and wouldn't have been able to do it without cannabis. Never mind all the prescription drugs that they're on, and never mind all the alcohol that our veterans are, drinking these days to kind of wash away all their horrible memories. It's an honor working with them, but to say that cannabis hurts them, it may bring out some of the inner fears that they have. It may bring out some of these things. But those people, I think, that's where the medical doctor or psychologist and cannabis use, I think, can integrate together, to push us to a further and higher ability to heal, as opposed to pharmaceutical drugs, which is cover up or mask or knock off receptors so you actually don't feel anymore, right? Fair
enough. Yarrow, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is cover for backtracking on the grandstanding and performative actions they took last year when considering a rescheduling. I think there's no question that we've covered on this show the involvement of organized Chinese criminal networks with cannabis cultivation. I don't think it's, racist that's been covered in the news. It does appear to have data behind it in more than one market. And, the DEA has a noble mandate when they're going after international cartels of any affiliation. And let's not forget, the real priority is fentanyl. That said, I think for a really long time, the DEA has been not just an enforcement arm of the legislative branch, but a highly political organization that has bent the knee to the priorities of whatever president is in office, and where the people who are being appointed at the top are as much politicians as they are policy or executive, officers executing the mandate of their president across thousands of employees and thousands of locations. And we covered it a couple weeks ago about the flip-flopping of this guy who's now the head of the DEA and how he said it would be a priority to address, and then it's not a priority. And so it very much to me feels like kind of business as usual. Here's the next chapter. And everything that Minardi said was accurate and noble, but we've been saying that for so long that I think it would be just really idealistic to think that we're going to have some sort of merit-based argument that's going to change the way business is done at the DEA. I don't think that it's about facts. I think it's about political agendas, and it doesn't seem like either party really is seeking substantive change.
This is all fair points. It's interesting because Red Setter Farm in the chats, he said, if cannabis is a dangerous controlled substance, shouldn't we lump carcinogenic chemical food additives as controlled substances and tax them accordingly?
I am with you on that, my friend.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I'm not.
I think you guys are conflating what's harmful versus what's intoxicating, right? Like, I don't think you're going to see red dye number 5 on the Controlled Substance Act. I don't think you're going to see BPA on the Controlled Substance Act. I don't think you're going to see Teflon coated cookware on the Controlled Substance Act. So is this country less committed to consumer safety and real health and wellness? Yeah, but does that mean all those things just get lumped into Schedule 1? I don't think so.
Well, if you look at the Schedule 1, right, some of these dyes in food coloring, what's the they have no medical use. They're not safe for without doctor supervision or any supervision, and they're highly addictive. Yep. So that's the definition of a controlled substance. It's a drug that gets you intoxicated or anything of that nature. And so, I mean, depends on how you define it, I guess. It's how the years we've been, and right, is it a crazy idea to think 100%? As my thought as a legislature, my first bill would always be to make sugar illegal, right? It's an insanity because we cannot compare apples to apples. We can't talk about safety because there's totally different circumstances. You're probably allowed to have more rat feces and animal feces in your food than you are in your cannabis. Realize that. Those are facts that we deal with every day that most of the public have no clue about, but that is happening every single day. Never mind the pesticides that they put on our foods that's being shipped from other countries. The cannabis definitely can't use, right? So I don't think it is about safety and common sense anymore. It's about greed and money and what pushes the vote and what kind of bullshit can we throw to the general public to get them to either pay us or vote for us, right?
Well, I think we have rat feces at the top of this organization. I mean, you are talking about an organization that has blood on its hands and a history of fighting drugs while pushing drugs. And so that shouldn't be lost on any American. Those are not opinions. And so when you create the problem that you then go and enforce against, that is a playbook that's been used in this country time and time again, both sides of the aisle. And the American public ought to be absolutely intolerant of the same patterns being rolled out and run again.
Well, and kind of back to the story, I do happen to agree with Mr. Armentano on his one point of saying, hey, he finds it interesting that they're targeting the Chinese grows and creating a special column for them, but yet we've had other different types of cartels and whatnot involved in the space, and they've never had a category. And so I wonder if the DEA should do a little bit more administrative work and create a category for them too. And I'm not saying to do it distinguished by race, but maybe do it distinguished by cartel, like you have a Sinaloa cartel, you know what I'm saying, and this cartel, that cartel.
I would disagree with his statement. I mean, I think that the cartels from Mexico have been a long-standing target, and we've talked about it a lot for a really long time. And nobody ever said, "Oh, wait, that's not fair. That's they're they're brown." Right? Like nobody was up in arms about that.
No, but they didn't have a column. They didn't have a column in the sheet. That's what he's talking about. He's saying that now all of a sudden that they made a column on the spreadsheet on when the DEA released this information that they have a column specifically for Chinese grows, and they've never had one for cartel grows or for any other different type of criminal organization. That's what he's saying.
Well, I think if we work backwards from the idea that they always have to have a looming threat from a big, bad, hard to define or opaque, shadowy criminal organization. I mean, DEA is out of business if they don't have someone to chase after, right?
Mm-hmm. I feel you. You know, and at the same time too, I wish they would have included the numbers from Maine. But I wonder if the reason that some of those have a 0 is because those are like still ongoing open investigations, and that's why they haven't they haven't supplied that data. I don't know. I'm sure that there's the number of reasons why that we could probably speculate all day on that. But enough of that. We're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into Mr. Michael Minardi. He is a lawyer out in the great red state of Florida. He's been helping cannabis advocates, caregivers, patients, and cannabis business entrepreneur hopefuls to navigate the complex reality in Florida and all of their cannabis laws. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
Hello, great to be back, and happy high noon to all those on the East Coast. Talking about enforcement activities, I heard the other day law enforcement told a client of mine after they arrested him that they are actively doing traffic enforcement. That they are looking for anybody who is driving a rented vehicle with a package in their truck or package in their vehicle, and finding a traffic infraction to pull them over for, so they can do a search. So that's their new profiling, it seems, here in Florida. So
there's a lot of boxes going out of Florida, apparently, Michael.
I think coming into Florida, my friend, from maybe your great state.
Interesting.
Maybe so, maybe.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. But keeps the prices down, especially with our dispensaries. So hopefully, and I'm excited about this, and this is from this weekend, Florida marijuana campaign has now collected 75% of signatures needed to put legalization on the 2026 ballot. Florida campaign has now collected more than 75% of the required signatures to put marijuana initiative on the 26th ballot, according to state officials. Smart and Safe began signature gathering for the measure in January, making steady progress as takes a second stab at enacting constitutional amendment after 2024 version of the legalization measure fell short. Activists picked up 50,000 more valid signatures over last month for a total of 661,000. They need 880,000 valid signatures to secure placement on the ballot, plus Supreme Court review. In addition to the total signatures, Smart and Safe must also gather a minimum from 8% of voters in at least half the state's congressional district. The campaign has already exceeded the needed threshold in 5 of the 28 districts, but it's close in several others. In June, the state affirmed that the campaign collected enough signatures to trigger a fiscal and judicial review that puts the money back in and allows the court to determine whether or not the ballot is legal. Governor DeSantis, as he said last time, that the measure is in big time trouble with the state Supreme Court, predicting it will be blocked from going before next year's voters. He said that last year too. There's a lot of different perspectives on marijuana, DeSantis said. It should not be in our Constitution. If you still feel strongly about it, you have elections for the legislature. Go back. Candidates that you believe will be able to deliver it with your vision on that. But when you put these things in the Constitution, I mean they wrote these all things on in here, I think it's going to have big time trouble getting through the Florida Supreme Court. At its current campaign has already succeeded in reaching one of its first milestones. The state is now statutorily obligated to conduct a judicial and financial review of the measure that will determine its legal eligibility and inform the electorate about its potential economic impact. The latest initiative was filed with the Secretary of State's office after it failed November of 24, despite an endorsement from President Trump. Smart and Safe is hoping that the revised version will succeed in the 26 campaign, which in the last election cycle received tens of millions of dollars from cannabis industry stakeholders Principally, TrueLeave incorporated certain changes into the new version that seem responsive to criticism opponents raised during the 2024 push. For example, it now specifically states that the smoking and vaping of marijuana in any public place is prohibited. Another section asserts that the legislature would need to approve rules dealing with the regulation of time, place, and manner of the public consumption of marijuana. Last year, the government accurately predicted the 20,000 cannabis campaign would survive a challenge. It's not entirely clear why he feels this version is different. While there's uncertainty around how the state's highest court will navigate the measure, a poll we showed with 67% of Florida's backing legalization, including 82% of Democrats, 66% of independents, and 55% of Republicans. However, results conflict with another recent poll from the Chamber of Commerce. Found the majority support for reform likely around 53%, but not enough to be enacted under the 60% threshold. In the background of the campaign signature development, DeSantis signed a GOP bill in June to impose significant restrictions on the ability to put initiatives on the ballot, a plan that could impair efforts to let voters decide on legalization next year. That is currently being challenged by Smart and Safe as well in the courts as to whether or not it should apply to them or not. I'm excited about this. I think it becomes another interesting issue, something we talk about regularly, all the different regulations of hemp throughout this country. In the last election, this was a big battle between the hemp and the cannabis space in the state. DeSantis teamed with the hemp companies in order to try to prevent this from passing because he stated that the hemp companies, the cannabis companies created the monopoly, prevented other licenses from being issued, and things of that nature, when DeSantis was really the one that caused all those issues. And still, even though they've issued provisional licenses, from the 23 new licenses that were awarded earlier this year, actually after the election last year, they still have not given those companies the licenses to start operating. So here we are in Florida, going again for another initiative in 2026 to legalize cannabis and hopefully push the envelope forward to legalize it federally.
All right, Michael. So here's the deal. What has changed between this ballot measure and the previous ballot measure?
So really, they just did a few things in order to exactly that, thwart the arguments made by DeSantis and their No on 3 team last year.
Mm-hmm.
Specific elements of allowing the department and really giving so last year they came at them because of the limited number of MMTCs, not opening up licenses. Mm-hmm. This allows them to open up licenses for adult use, kind of requires them. The limitation on not having home grow in the amendment, right? This allows the legislature kind of specifically to allow home cultivation. Mm-hmm. Little things like that are specifically to thwart the arguments that they made last year, which honestly were all really lies anyway. Mm-hmm. All those issues were a result of our legislature, and our legislature this past session again failed to even pass. I think it was 2 plants for patients that had to then be registered with the Department of Agriculture to even do so. And that was one of the biggest criticisms, and the monopolies as well. So they did. The second
so they did include home grow into this version.
They did not.
They did not. Okay.
But they put the legislature can do so. So, and the reason why, again, goes back to that single subject issue is to their issue of them, worried that if they have home cultivation and the legalization of it would violate the single subject rule, then get the amendment kicked, as was argued last year by a couple of the Attorney General's office and I think someone else, that by adding legalization and allowing businesses to sell it violated the single subject.
No, you're totally.
Those are parameters.
No, you're totally right about that. But my point of it is this, is that I feel as though if they really wanted this adult measure to pass, that they would run 2 ballot initiatives, one for home grow, and one for adult use cannabis sales. And they would run them parallel and have them run as 2 totally different voter initiatives, but run them both at the same time. And I think that would show the people of Florida
and the whole patient base and the whole cannabis community out there, that they were serious about making sure that there's access for everybody out there, as opposed to I think just putting language in there that says that the legislature can do it is just kind of punting the ball and saying, okay, here, we're going to do this, but the legislature is not going to ultimately do anything with it, and so it's kind of just a punt down the road, and it kind of changes the talking point. But that's very frustrating to me. I feel as though, but I do respect the single subject rule. I do respect that. I am with that. I just was more hopeful that they would have ran 2 parallel voter initiatives, because I think that would have been the ultimate solution to be able to get it across the finish line. And I'm not sure if it's going to pass without it.
I cannot say that I don't have a petition ready to do that for a couple years now.
Well, this is the thing too, is they got close. They got close last time, but voter turnout is extremely high during presidential elections, and voter turnout is a lot lower during midterm elections. And so I don't think that I think they're actually going to do worse this time around than they did last time.
Interesting. Like our voter turnout this year was less than it was in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
In 24, right, for the presidential election. So
Mm-hmm.
it will be interesting. And who knows, maybe that's a good thing or bad thing at this point when we're looking at that, in that, we have the situation where, that backlash ideology,
Mm-hmm.
or is there going to be a larger amount of more, Democrat or other voters coming out for this election in Florida to support this? Based on what's going on with the top, and we do have a governor's election this year. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. That was the thought. Medical marijuana failed in 2016 under governor and passed in 2018. But it really all depends on who shows up to vote, man. That's what it's all about, and that message out there. My belief is a big portion of it was the Latin Hispanic community in the Miami-Dade area that really tanked this amendment in 2024. I don't have the data to support that, but we know Miami-Dade was barely at 50% or at 50% on this initiative, and we needed the largest, typically most Democratic area in the state, or at least most cannabis-friendly area in the state, to at least approve it by over 50% in order to pass it.
Exactly.
That's really where we have to focus.
Mm-hmm. Yarrow, are you with us?
Yeah.
Okay. You have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I think our viewers know very clearly my opinions about DeSantis in general, and about a lack of home grow in any policy or proposed policy. Neither of those are good. Some sort of step in the right direction would be great. I think DeSantis is. I mean, I can't wait for the Republican Party to be like the Amish and excommunicate him or ban him. But maybe I'm just living in a vacuum here.
In a bubble.
I think he's pretty deplorable.
Interesting. Well, we shall see. I know we're going to have more stories about Florida as they go. I'm glad to see that people are motivated to sign these petitions to help bring weed to the people and whatnot. And so I think that overall is a good thing. I'm not too sold on this voter initiative again, just like I wasn't sold on the last one. A question for you, Michael, before we move on. In this voter initiative, does it give the same exemption for all these companies to not be able to be sued as the previous one did? That was my biggest problem with the whole initiative.
The Kool-Aid too, huh?
I mean, it was in there. It was in there. I read it.
I don't believe that that's a reality as to how that was read and how that's written and how that was interpreted, that they couldn't be sued for anything. From my position, it was protections from them being subject to any sort of criminal activity as a result of their actions, not for being sued by civil suits or things of that nature. And I don't know of a court that has interpreted the amendment that way against them. And I think there's at least a couple lawsuits that have been filed against them in the state. I haven't seen them file a motion to dismiss because they have immunity from sued.
Well, I definitely interpreted it as that. It was like a product liability immunity is how I interpreted it.
Yeah, and that's how DeSantis and them interpreted it, but I haven't seen that played out that way, and that's how I never interpreted it under those circumstances.
Interesting.
The thing I am worried about, and the thing that's important, I think, for anybody who is from Florida that's listening to this that may be against this or whatever, the ballot initiative again is a step forward towards legalization. Our legislature is never going to do this. I don't see, unless I'm at the top, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And I think that we have to realize they keep on making this process harder and harder for people to get it done. There's not even a possibility that a grassroots organization is going to be able to get this done now in the state of Florida. Not even close to possible.
I agree with that.
So I think, every chance that we get to vote on this, we have to take it. And just to push this envelope forward, we have to do it, because I think there's nothing more that would piss the legislature off is them by them having legalization. I really still think that if we want an open market, we have to legalize it with them in order to get the legislature to go against them because they're so mad about them legalizing.
Fair enough. Interesting points. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back. And we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. Did you get that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that, they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
That's cute. That's cute. That's cute.
Live life, love.
And we are back, you guys. We are back.
Coming up next, whether he's on camera or off, we still know that he's the smallest, angriest elf on the High 9 shelf, our resident real estate guru, all the way out of Sebastopol, Yarrow Kubrin.
Oh, well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me throw on my most beautiful look here.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. There he is. Look at that, bro. You look like you just rolled out of bed. Look at this guy.
Not at all. It's just a six-day stubble.
Yeah. Look at you, bro. You might as well just grow a beard, bro. You know what I'm saying?
I would love to. I reach a point of itchiness, and then I just have to shave my whole face off. So
you'd be like the ultimate Shire troll right there.
Oh, man. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So my article out of another wonderful state besides Florida is about Texas. And I've read the article, and I will read portions of it. But really, I will paraphrase it for you because the details aren't that important. A Republican district attorney in West Texas recorded herself smoking marijuana on Saturday and posted it to social media in an unusually direct and legally perilous protest against the state's ban on recreational marijuana use. The district attorney, Sarah Stogner, is not a typical Texas Republican, and the social media stunt was not her first. She propelled herself to statewide notoriety in 2022 with a similarly audacious bid for attention, a campaign ad in which she rode nearly naked on an oil field pump jack. She lost the race for the seat for the Texas Railroad Commission, but she gained the attention of the Republican Party. So in any case, this gal, she smokes a joint on TikTok in front of her house, and she says Texans are tired of it. We are behind the times. And so she does face the possibility of a misdemeanor, and she has never been in an elected office before, and she's actually never been a district attorney, never prosecuted a criminal case, but she's in this remote, rural little area, and they believe that she had very little competition running for this office because of how remote it was, and she is bucking the Republican Party and smoking spleefs. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News.
Oh man, this was a good story, Yarrow. This was a good story. And Sarah Stonger used to be a correspondent with us back when we were only on Clubhouse back in the days during COVID. And so shout out to her. And she ran for the Railroad Commission, unfortunately lost, and now she's am I correct? She's a district attorney.
Yeah, she's a DA.
Yeah. That's super, super interesting. Super awesome. Interesting. You know what I mean? Very, very, very interesting.
It'll be interesting to see if they feel the need to do something to her for her public display of disobedience, or being a conscientious objector.
What are they going to do? I mean, what can they do? I don't think there's really much that they can do. I mean, she's a DA. She could just get any charges dropped because she would be prosecuted in her own county.
Well, not necessarily. She could be charged at a state level or federal level. I think it's a misdemeanor according to the article. We know at High at 9 News it's an additional misdemeanor if you're smoking boof. So we don't know the quality of her spleef. But she's really thumbing her nose at the existing rules and regs in a way that probably is going to get her a lot of support. I mean, most politicians are weather vanes and they read what the majority thinks. And I think it's not an overstatement to say that probably the majority of Texans, whether they're personally in favor of cannabis or not, hopefully, they're in favor of less government intrusion on people's civil liberties.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I mean, I just don't see it. I don't see her getting charged. I don't see her getting charged on a state level. I don't see her getting charged on a federal level. I mean, that would be kind of faux pas for her to get charged for a pre-roll on a federal level. That wouldn't make any sense. On a state level, I
don't know that it was a pre-roll. She might have made it herself, but that's how she rolls.
No, it was a pre-roll.
And the fact that she is begging them to do something by flaunting it in front of them is inspiring.
Yeah, she is a fighter and she is a cannabis warrior. So shout out to Sarah. We do appreciate your efforts. I think she's just trying to convey a very good point. The reality is that Texas is surrounded by states with programs, whether they're limited or not. Louisiana has a limited program. Oklahoma has a wide open market, the wild west, and New Mexico has a fairly open program as well. And so no matter where you're at in the state, and then you have the whole the shipping from Mexico coming across the southern border, and so ultimately there's plenty of product that people can get all around them, and so creating these bans on cannabis and whatnot just don't make sense, and them trying to create this artificial market of banning hemp-based products because they think that the more people are going to go to the teacup stores, and when they don't even have enough teacup stores in the entire state to facilitate any type of demand, I think is just total ridiculousness.
Well, she said that she got it from a regulated shop in New Mexico.
Yep.
And she was poking fun at having these patchwork of dry versus non-dry states, specifically for adult use. So it'll be interesting to see. I would imagine we'll see more from this story.
I would imagine too, as well, and you know, and we will definitely invite Sarah onto the show if she'd like to come on and talk about this or deliver some other type of story later on in the future for sure. Michael, you have any thoughts about this? What's her legal ramifications? Really, it's nothing, ain't it?
That's what I think. You know, I mean, unless she's possessing it, they're going to say she was possessing it on camera, but I mean, I don't know. It's a very interesting aspect of it, and you never really don't see people doing things on camera like that and then get arrested.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, you're going to say she admitted it was cannabis and was smoking it, so it's illegal, but she never had it when they arrested her for it. Were they charging her for possession? It's
right.
Possession?
Yeah, it's like how you going to get charged with a homicide without a firearm.
They can probably drug test a public servant who's a district attorney, and if she doesn't have a recommendation within that state, there could be some avenue in which they can make her life miserable.
I'm not sure if they have the ability to do that, bro. This is not the, you know what I'm saying, the UAE.
Well, but if she is a district attorney, most agencies do have drug-free workplace policies. And
yeah.
That's in the workplace. That's in the workplace. She was at her home. She wasn't in her office.
That's what I was going to say. That's the question of what the workplace policy says. But unfortunately, you know, as someone who is has a case up on appeal regarding employee rights issues, you know, it becomes the issue of, well, you just tested positive for it because it was in your system for 30 days. So regardless of whether or not you're using it on work purposes or not, you have an illegal substance in your system and I'm going to fire you. So those are definitely potential ramifications and fallouts from her.
I think probably the most enforcement that she's going to face from this is possible deletion of her TikTok account.
Yeah.
Or re-election.
I think this makes her more electable actually in her district.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think this makes her more electable because, you know, she's out there fighting for the people, and people recognize that and notice that and turn out for that. So shout out Sarah, congratulations on this. This was a cool story. I'm glad you chose to cover this, Yarrow. Jenny Beth, you have any thoughts on this? All right, hearing nothing from Jenny, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Stay up.
And
Stay
we're
up.
easy there. Pause with all that, buddy. So I did promise you guys an update on the glass house situation, and we may possibly be getting someone who is going to be. Let me text him right now. So I just texted him to see if he is. We'll see. We may have a special guest coming on to speak up for Glass House or whatnot. But this fairness, just, you know, full transparency. This is what Glass House has recently put out in response to the ICE raids. So apparently he says he's gonna come on, Mr. Travis. This should definitely get interesting. So Elias, keep an eye open for that. Travis is about to sign on, but there he is. Well, Glasshouse Brands provides an update to recent ICE raids at 2 cannabis cultivation sites. Among roughly 360 people arrested or detained, and only 9 were Glasshouse employees, and none were minors, according to the company. Well, Glasshouse Brands, one of the fastest growing vertically integrated cannabis companies in the U.S., announced updates to recent events. On July 10th, 2025, federal officers led by the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, within the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, raided 2 of the company's farms. A federal search warrant was served and authorizing the search for evidence of possible immigration violations under Title 8 of the United States Code. Very few documents were seized pursuant to the search warrant. The government and media have reported that approximately 360 individuals were detained or arrested during the raids for immigration violations, and the company has been unable to verify the actual number of the identities of those detained. Well, that's interesting. 9 employees of the company were detained or arrested, and any other individuals detained or arrested would have been either employees of a third-party contractors providing services at the company's Camarillo farm, including the farm labor contractors providing labor for the agricultural operations, or were unassociated with the company. Well, how do they get on the property if they're unassociated with either of those companies? I'm confused by that, but nonetheless, third-party farm labor contractors were required by agreement to ensure that each of their employees assigned to one of the company facilities must be 21 and older and have valid ID work authorization. Federal authorities have reported that approximately 11 minors, I thought it was 14, ranging from age 14 to 17 years old, were detained during the raids, and while the identities of the alleged minors have not been disclosed, the company has been able to determine that if those reports are true, none of them were Glasshouse employees. Well, I think anyone would know that. But nonetheless, federal labor law and California law permit minors as young as 12 years old to work in agriculture, and as required by California cannabis regulations. However, the company requires that no one under the age of 21 work in any facility, and that the third-party farm labor contractors verify and ensure that all workers they hire and assign to the company's facilities are over the age of 21. An employee of the security contractor for the Camarillo facility, George Reitz, was reportedly detained for 3 days without charges. He is a U.S. citizen and Army veteran. And one employee of a third-party contractor, Jaime Alanis Garcia, died from injuries sustained during that raid. The media also reported that violent protests broke out outside the law enforcement barricades in response to the raids, and resulting detentions and arrests, and it is the company's belief that no employees of the company were in any way involved in the protest. To the company's knowledge, none of the individuals working at the company's facilities on July 10, 2025 were paid less than either of the federal or California minimum wage, and the company has always paid a competitive and legal wage for workers, including both its employees and any third-party workers. For the first 6 months of 2025, labor contractors were paid an average net of fees paid to the farm labor company, an hourly rate of approximately $18.60 per hour. The net hourly rate was more than 12% higher than California's minimum wage requirement, one of the highest of any state in the country, and 2.2x higher than the federal minimum wage. Subsequently to July 10th, the company has undergone significant changes, you guys. Oh, man, get ready for all of these. The company terminated its relationship with the 2 farm labor contractors providing workers for its farms. The company has revised its farm labor contractor agreements to ensure that their compliance processes are best in class and in accordance with the latest company standards. The company has engaged new farm labor contractors to provide work pursuant to the best-in-class agreements, and the company has required the 2 farm labor contractors who had been terminated to agree to and implement the new enhanced compliance procedures before any of its workers would be allowed to access to Glasshouse facilities. The company has made significant changes to labor practices that are above and beyond legal requirements, and since July 10th, 2025, the company has hired leading compliance consultants Guidepost Services, led by former director of ICE. What?
This is my favorite part. Go for it, Jason.
Okay, all right. Guidepoint Services, led by former
Director of ICE and Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security, Julie Myers-Wood, to assist the company's counsel with implementing best practices for determining employment eligibility for its employees and for ensuring the eligibility of employees of contractors. All employees of the company and the farm labor are now e-verified. Why weren't they done that before? And the underlying documents are reviewed by experts for validity and age gating. The company has enhanced age gating controls for everyone entering the farms, including contracted employees, third-party vendors, visitors, customers, and employees of the company. And the company has signed a labor peace agreement for its license-holding entities, including the farm facilities, with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the largest labor organization in the United States. The agreement allows the Teamsters to present to employees throughout the company, and the company will cooperate with those efforts. But man, oh man, you guys, I wonder if they built a daycare center too. I didn't notice that in the article, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Oh, pick me.
Go for it, Jenny.
Hey, first of all, I love nothing more in the morning than a good old PR Newswire release. Wait, we can explain.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, you hired the former director of ICE and Homeland Security. That doesn't sound like inside government bullshit again from Glass House.
Exactly.
With the independent farm contractors, right? California has this thing called the ABC test to decide if this worker is an employee or an independent contractor, which they would have been if they were under employment of the third party contractor. So the really important portion is A and B. A is free from hiring entities' control and direction in performing the work. So you tell them what time to start. You tell them what time to stop. You tell them how to handle your plants. You tell them how to do work at your facility. That's an employee because you are telling them what to do. And B, performs work outside the hiring entity's usual course of business. Now, I've said it a million times. I understand that we use these farm contracting companies. We bring in trim companies. We bring in whatever. But this is bullshit, and it doesn't absolve you per regulations in the state of California from being responsible as the owner of a facility for any actions that take place inside your facility, be it an independent contractor, be it an employee, be it whomever. I'm so sorry, but this little, that's why it took them so long to make this little announcement. But Verify is something that we're all very fucking well aware of, right? Very well aware of. It's free.
Yep.
And it's so that should have happened. And then if we're going to keep going and talk about farm labor contractors, so farm labor contractors providing workers are required to make sure that these are legal people to work. And I'm sorry, I have an almost 13-year-old, but I'm not going to confuse a 14-year-old with a 21-year-old today, tomorrow, or any day. So you guys, you need to stop being complicit to what's happening in your facility. Say, oh, we fucked up. Because, you fucked up. Sorry, you did. And we're hiring companies that are providing you people that are valid to work in your facility, then, you fucked up again. But also, the union that they were using was a seafarers union. That wasn't a union that was allowed to be used in the cannabis space. So thank you for finally getting a labor peace agreement. But while I'm sitting here watching Glass House skate all around and release little PR issues that say, hey, we didn't do anything wrong, let me explain. I'm sitting here also a client of mine whose labor peace agreement wasn't updated according to what the DCC wanted, and they have their license taken away, canceled, goodbye.
Yep, exactly.
So, this enforcement is bullshit. It's selective, and I don't understand. I mean, I do, but it pisses me off.
Yep. I agree, Jenny Beth. It's total selective enforcement, and the fact that Glass House is stating that no minors were present at the farm during the raids. There's some of it to where, like, what, I've been raided by the DEA, and we know that the DEA will say that there was this much when there was this much, and there was that much when there was that much, and da 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 da. Now, I've never been raided by ICE. Okay.
And I don't know how often ICE agents actually lie and say that there's minors, and I don't know how they would actually get around the paperwork, because they have to take custody of those minors. And so how would they just fill out blank forms for custody of minors without actually having custody of minors? And so that part of this whole thing kind of confuses me, because Glasshouse is saying there was no minors there. Meanwhile, ICE and Homeland Security said that they detained 14 minors at the property. You want to touch that one, Mike?
I was going to say, I don't know how you clean that discrepancy up.
Right?
I was going to say, yeah, I thought the department reports also doesn't say anything about, I think I read that in one article about minors being on the property, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 14. 14 of them.
So, I mean, I guess, is there, did they see one or a couple kids on the property and embellish it? As far as law enforcement goes, did they see him walking into the facility? As they were going in, they're out in the parking lot.
You can't just walk into one of these facilities, though, Michael. These are.
Well, I'm saying out in the parking lot or something like. I'm just saying, why there's discrepancy. I don't know, but would I pass it by law enforcement, whether or not it be ICE or anyone else, to see something and just change it into whatever they want to make it look worse? I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm just saying, as far as like you asked that question, kind of like, why is there such a discrepancy? And it doesn't make sense to me, honestly.
Mm-hmm. What do you have to say, Yarrow?
I think Michael answered the question without posing it as a statement. He said, does law enforcement ever inflate things? And we know the answer to that question, broadly speaking. And we know that things often play out in the press with the jury of public opinion before there's ever a finder of fact. And so I feel like he kind of said it without pounding the point home, and I'd rather be the one who does.
Are you're gonna pound the point home?
I don't believe a word that comes out of enforcement agencies until it's proven in a court of law with an independent third-party professional who actually passed the bar. I do not believe a thing that comes out of press releases. And we know, if you've been the subject of a press release, that those are really playing to public opinion, and that's what they are. They're not bound by that. That's not a statement made in court. Let's get real for a second. I mean, what are we, like, living in some alternative universe where we're just going to echo chamber what's stated by law enforcement for once in our lives? Like, we're supposed to be independent thinkers here and be able to filter through, not just amplify. There's no world in which I'm going to take that at face value.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But at the same time, there was footage that had been released on social media involving depositions of the CEO saying that they're not involved in any out of state sales of their products or whatnot.
Now you're conflating.
Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a point.
Because you're talking about out of state sales and we're talking about minors. Here's the deal. This is a country that is great because everybody is innocent until proven guilty. This is not playing out in the court of law. And until we have a finder of fact and it gets adjudicated, we are supposed to suspend judgment and go, okay, let's see how this plays out. Not, well, law enforcement says. I mean, come on.
I have suspended my judgment. I'm just stating what one's saying once I'm you know what I mean. I'm all for a full open investigation, and I think there should be a full investigation of Glass House and all of this. I totally agree with that.
I'm not defending Glass House. I'm defending the process that we know leads to true analysis of real facts, and this whole process is way too soon for anybody to have an opinion about anything other than the press release and talking points that have been fed and pre-digested to us.
I did find it interesting in the things that they said, the Glass House that they fixed, that they mentioned that now that they use E-Verify for all of their contract labor. I did find that extremely humorous. But because E-Verify is free. Just go online, type the name, you know what I mean?
Well, we all know they shouldn't be throwing stones.
Yep, that's fair enough. Fair enough. I wonder if we should start calling them Gaslight House.
Oh, dude, you have this guy on house or what?
I do.
What's that, Jenny?
I'm gonna agree with Yarrow J.
That's
I'm
fine.
going to agree with Yarrow that you are conflating a little bit there, Jason.
Okay,
and,
fine.
You know,
I dropped it.
Just because one misdeed doesn't mean you're guilty. However, I'm going to say that there's a reason why I only spoke on that Glass House said that they had fixed. So if there's not a problem, you don't have to fix it. So I don't know. I guess we'll find
that's
really happened.
that's not
but at
true.
the end of the day, let me finish. Let me finish.
Go for it, Jenny.
Thank you so fucking much. Put your little hand down. I'm going to finish. Based on California law.
Jen, you're cutting out.
And that's the best stops for me. And
Jenny,
the biggest story here is
you're botting out, Jenny.
To continue to participate in this industry when anybody else would.
Jenny, you're botting out. You got to start. You got to start. Yeah.
Finishing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jenny.
Than having to hear that bad reception.
Yeah, Jenny. Well, your reception is terrible right now. We got none of that.
So, if I may,
Mm-hmm.
making corrections, revisions, and adjustments to practices is not an admission of guilt. Most organizations believe that they are supposed to continue to evolve and level up. You can study this in school, organizational development, feedback loops, changing, iterating, and improving. I don't think making a statement to the press about changing practices is an admission of guilt. I think they recognize that this is playing out in the press and they need to do something to make statements to the press.
Well, that's cute. But I'm going to go ahead and say E-Verify should be everybody's day one SOP. Period, point blank. It's not the first day of school here. I remember my first day too, Yarrow. But say, hey, we're going to start doing things in our improvement plan because process optimization is a part of what I do as a business, Yarrow. So I'm very familiar with having to revise policies, right? So what I'm going to say is something that should have been done from day one now being your improvement. I'm sorry, that one doesn't hunt for me.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts on this, Michael?
Yeah, just say that sounds like she's upset that they're being treated differently than other operators in the industry.
They are.
They should be. And everyone should be upset about that. And number two, I'd like to see everything that really comes out about this, but the regulators really should be, number one, transparent about everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And be, complying if there were children there, where they were there and what's going on, where they were. With Yarrow on the absolute, and I was trying to be nice to law enforcement. I don't believe the first thing you learn as an attorney, especially a criminal defense attorney, is you read every line looking for the reading in between the lines because everything they say is a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully these people will learn from this and whether or not they are good operators or not otherwise in the state. I know there's been talk about them being held up as the compliance standard for the state, that they actually become that as a result of this if they weren't.
Stop it. I mean, first of all, bro, if they had children on the facility and the fact that the DCC hasn't even revoked their licenses already, to me, I don't think the DCC holds foot to revoke anyone's licenses in the entire cannabis industry in the state. But that's just my take on it.
Treated like everyone else is.
Yeah.
Just like any politician, just like anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Really have to be judged on the same standard, and that's why we have all these problems because there's a different standard for everybody.
Yep, exactly. Well, on that was your Glass House update for today, you guys, and maybe we'll have another one tomorrow. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Well, knows. But man, one more final story for you guys, and we're going back to China, you guys, because illegal cannabis business operators charged with murder after 5 of their workers die, prosecutors say. That's right. 2 Los Angeles County men accused of running an illegal cannabis extraction business have been charged with murder after 5 of their workers died in 2 separate incidents, authorities said on Friday. According to the LA County District Attorney's Office, Ted Chien, 53, and Han Quan Zhao, 55, administered the operation, which included at least 9 locations countywide. In October of 2023, the explosion occurred at a warehouse in Irwindale that was allegedly being used for honey oil extraction, prosecutors said in a statement. 4 weeks later, Yai Lu and Xin Chin and Guingyi Fu and Quizing Ho Liang were killed in the blast. Another employee, Borden Tony Siriklin, was killed just over a year later in a fire that broke out at a laboratory in South El Monte, according to the district attorney's office, and prosecutors allege that the location was also run by Chen and Zhao. The two are accused of continuing to distribute illegal concentrated cannabis even after the deaths of 5 workers, officials said. And in a quote, "This case shows the deadly and disastrous results when illegal cannabis operations recklessly put greed over the safety of their employees and neighbors," said LA County District Attorney District Attorney Nathan Hotchman. "Cannabis may be legal in California, but this kind of high-risk illegal activity is not," he says. Chen of Temple City has been charged with 5 counts of murder and 2 felony counts of arson causing great bodily injury, prosecutors said. Zhao of Rosemead faces 1 count of murder and arson causing great bodily injury, and the 2 also face 8 felony counts of manufacturing a controlled substance and 3 felony counts of maintaining a place for selling or using a controlled substance, according to the district attorney's office. If convicted as charged, prosecutors say Chen could face a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole or the death penalty, and Zhao could face a life sentence. Several workers were also charged for their alleged involvement in the enterprise, the district attorney's office said. Zhao Lang Deng, 36, Cheng Yang Zhu of 61, and Christopher Reyes, 30, and Frank Herrera, 35, allegedly worked for Chen and Zhao, and they each face 1 count of conspiracy to manufacture concentrated cannabis, a controlled substance. Reyes, Hera, and Deng were also each charged with 1 count of manufacturing and compounding or producing a controlled substance, and Zhu was charged with 2 counts of the same offenses, officials said. The case was being investigated by the District Attorney's Bureau of Investigation, as well as several other agencies, including the Drug Enforcement Administration and the U.S. Postal Service, you guys. Man, this is a sad, sad day for L.A., and you know, rest in peace, and our condolences to the families that lost loved ones involved in this case. This is a sad state of affairs, and you know, I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Oh, man, we're back to 2012. We're just open blasting in the garage, huh?
That's what it sounds like.
Absolutely egregious. This reminds me of that Lord Farquaad meme. Some of you may have to die, but that's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah.
Like, this is just, there's no excuse for this. This is fucking terrible. So, you guys, there's a reason why we're required to have C1, D1 cabinets and all these fucking very expensive little pieces of infrastructure, because we don't want people to die and blow up. You're on mute, Michael.
Are these just people being idiots?
Yes.
I mean, not just the. I get it can be dangerous, but I mean, if you blow up, aren't you just being an idiot doing something wrong?
Well, you know, I wonder if these cases actually got put into the spreadsheet that we covered as on the second story of today, Michael.
Oh, that's a good question. I wonder.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just think some of these things are just people being stupid, like, you know, people that drive their car into a restaurant, you know.
Oh, fair enough. That's pretty stupid too.
Because I mean, I think you can blast safely if you have half a brain.
Fair enough. But you know, it's like the scarecrow. If I only had a brain, right?
Exactly the point.
Man, it's a sad story. Sorry to end this show on a sad story, you guys, but I felt that it definitely needed to get covered. And our thoughts and prayers with the family of these individuals that lost their lives. It's a sad day.
100%. And also, you know, I mean, I hate that you ended it on a sad story, Jason. I'm very disappointed, but I did have to run, not walk, to better signal so that I could say I'm used to Yarrow arguing and wanting to be argumentative, but the fact that he went that far with Glass House to put that hill to die on with me was crazy this morning.
I feel, you know, I mean, he is from the Shire, so you know he knows all about, you know, being on hills. Fair enough, you know, or mounds maybe, you know what I'm saying, because he has the height problem.
Mounds. Now that's a chocolate bar I can get behind.
And on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Aim High Hemp Distribution, Tested and Catalyst for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high
High at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.
Beck.